States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks everybody. Welcome. First item, first let's check with Brett with ISG and Matt. Are you guys able to hear it?
I can hear.
I can hear you.
Okay, sounds like we're good. Thank you. Start off here with public comment. Sally Crandall was going to be here. She's under the weather, so Mr. Davies.
Yes, I talked with Sally, and yeah, she sends her regrets. She's not feeling well, and she prepared a statement, and I'll go ahead and read that for the record. And Sally was a part of the dog park committee, which has disbanded. It was my understanding the money from the dog park could be used for our community in some way, such as dog waste stations around Hampton. There are needs for waste stations, for example, the Bandshell Park. This would be advantageous as it is located right across from the dog house, which is a local dog grooming business. Local residents are using the provided waste station at the dog house, which is there for paying customers. I have talked to Sally has talked to Tabitha Brass, who works at the dog house, and she has voiced concerns as residents are using the waste station that is for the business patrons. In having discussion with workers at the dog house, Sally was able to get information on waste stations. Dogwastedepot.com and the phone number 1-800-678-1612. Many waste stations without trash cans are $179.97. If purchased 6 or more, they're $170.97. Waste stations with trash cans are $288.97. If purchased 6 or more, $258.97. Of note, the above waste stations would need to some sort of anchor, such as a pole to attach to. Additionally, no need for sign above due to the bag receptacle having its own verbiage on front. Some other suggested locations around Hampton for waste stations are the Bandshell with trash can, 2 of those, East Park, the soccer fields, 2 without trash can, similar to the waste station at the Lions Gazebo on First Street. The swimming pool park, 2 without trash cans. A ball field by the concession stand by the tennis courts, 1. The walking path, 3, proposed by the bench close to Olive Avenue, northeast corner by the bench before going into the cemetery, and then the adjunct between walking path and the soccer fields with the trash can. This would come to 3 total waste stations with trash cans and 6 waste stations without trash cans. Thank you for your time and consideration, as there is a need to have these waste stations available to residents of Hampton. This will help keep our town clean of animal waste, in addition to help promote the quaintness of the beauty of a small town. And again, that was the statement that Sally Crandall prepared.
All right. Moving on. We have a nuisance update. Chief Morrison first.
Get together tonight.
Okay. Tag team.
We have 15 new notices that went out since our last meeting. We had 2 court cases last week that got continued into late December, and then we have about 7 more that are still pending through December and January. So that makes it a little harder for the cleanups, but we're still working through those processes. And then Doug and I did rounds today and talked to some business owners and property owners, and he's going to report on those. So I'll let him talk.
Thank you. We conducted a court-ordered inspection of the property located at 319 3rd Avenue Southwest this morning, and those were some of the pictures that we had on prior to the meeting. if you're able to see some of those. The findings were significant enough to condemn. I spoke to the city attorney to prepare an eviction notice because it is owner occupied. It's pretty bad shape. The property owner was definitely made aware of the paperwork that's going to be coming, and then we referred them to Community Resource Center, which, and kind of knowing this was coming up, I'd already stopped over there a couple weeks ago and had a conversation with them. However, the feedback I got from him when he went there today was not exact, so we need to get some more confirmation on what he found out when he went over there. The Lantern Park Apartments on 12th Avenue, I received a call last week from Jeff from Axis Real Estate Investment Firm with information pertaining to the Lantern Park Apartments on 12th Avenue, and that they would be on site today. We actually, the chief and I went there today. They are looking to purchase and close on this property by the end of the month. So that was very good news to see that it's going to be a different ownership and different management. The chief and I met their team up there. They had a whole team. It was at the actual apartments themselves. They are in hopes to have it habitable by the end of March. So they believe if they can get some things done on the front end here before they close in late December, like getting some materials and stuff ordered for repairs. The list of items they provided us include new roofing and gutters, new siding, new landscaping, interior remodels to include cabinets, flooring, sheetrock, entry doors, camera system, fixtures, fire protection alert systems. They will be working on plans and permits with hopes of hitting the project hard soon as they close. I mean, I think they're pretty serious about this. We'll see. They own some other property in our community as well. There were some local vendors there. I believe Rod was there from the lumber yard, so measuring windows for them. So, and then they also asked for a list of contractors that we're aware of that we've worked with before, and then they also mentioned utilizing Murphy's Plumbing and Heating. So, you know, there's a lot of dollars that are probably going to be spent on this project, and I'm excited because right now there's only 4 apartments in that entire complex that are being utilized. So to get that up and running again, to get all 24 of those back in operation, I think will be very good for the community. I believe it's not going to be a HUD program, according to what they said. And hopefully that will help some folks, you know, find some housing. We get calls all the time at City Hall for people looking if we can refer them somewhere. So it'd be great to be able to refer somebody to those newer apartments or updated apartments. House fire at 716 First Avenue Northeast. The certified letter has been mailed to the insurance company to do the $10,000 withholding by state law. Once I verify that that's been received by the insurance company, I will do a walkthrough inspection with the property owner, and I've been communicating with the property owner as well. Right now, they've been given permission to enter the property to do cleanup. It's going to be a lot easier to inspect once they get some things cleaned up out of there, so that'll be good. So I'll update more on that in the near future. One of the thought processes the owner had, though, was they would, if possible, like to refurbish the property, if that's possible. So we'll know more after we get on the inside and take a look. I, too, have a district court that has been continued to late December, early January, as well as, I believe, one magistrate case, too, at that level coming up. And then the garage demo at 504 3rd Street Southwest, that's scheduled for next week, weather permitting. We're going to have to get some dumpsters hauled in and get some work getting ready to go there. And then 1124 Street Southeast, you guys have asked about that a few different times, out on 140th and Highway 65 South. I spoke to the contractor. He advised me that it's coming up soon on his schedule. I said, how soon? I did express having some urgency, as that would be appreciated by all. Let's get working on this thing a little bit. I think they understand where we're coming from, but they also have their own schedules to worry about. But I do know that they did a good job on the last one they had. So other than that, any questions or concerns?
Mr. Blanford?
That one that had the house fire, Are we able to bill them for the work that you're doing and for the fire department for that type of stuff?
I believe the fire department has a service fee potentially that they would maybe send out, but that's up to the fire chief whether or not they do that. As far as my work there, no, we don't bill them for that.
Okay.
Mr. Lamos?
The house that's been condemned at 319, is there a mortgage on that?
I don't know the details on that end of it, no.
No, another one, Lantern Park. So there's tenants there already, they're not gonna be,
Right.
they're gonna stay there.
They're going to stay there. There is a program that they will be offered some sort of government assistance in the form of I believe, some sort of like a voucher to help make up their difference. But there's only 5 in there right now that we're aware of. So, yeah, they're not kicking anybody out.
The 10K for the insurance company, is that just, where does that money go? Is that in case they walk away from it?
Correct.
And then we have to 10K to demo it?
Correct, right. Yep, they hold that back in reserve.
What's, the house on Highway 65 South, did the insurance company pay 10K on that?
We sent them a letter to withhold the 10K, and I would have to check my records to see where that ended once it switched ownership. I don't really have a fear that that one's going to get walked away on. However, I do believe we still sent the notice to the insurance agency.
Thank you.
I have a question. What was the address again on that eviction notice house, the very first one you said?
That was 319 3rd Avenue Southwest.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I don't think on that Lantern Apartments, there was anybody in apartment 3. That was like a wash years ago, from what I understand.
Right.
Or else you had one person there you couldn't get out?
As far as in the Lantern Park apartments?
Yeah.
There was one on the building 3, there was one that gave us a little bit of issue. Other than that, it was just squatters that would break windows and enter illegally.
You think there's a way they're gonna take care of that then?
I think once it's up and done, yes. I mean, they did talk about putting a camera system up. And then I also expressed that we really need to keep it boarded up while they're doing some work to it and different things. And as far as the 5 people there, I shouldn't speak on all their behalf, but the concept was to have everybody remain there. Now, having said that, if they have some people there that are going to give them issues, that's up to them, to manage accordingly. The other thing we recommended to them is to have management on site. Part of the failures of that property, in my opinion, was the management firm that was hired didn't live here, and they didn't give it the attention it needed, and so it got out of hand for
Right.
them.
Same
And
with
that's-
other buildings around here too.
Correct. Yep, if we can get some management in town, that would be the most beneficial.
There was a house, First Street Northeast, like in 9th Place. It's on the corner.
Yes.
What's the status of that?
So that was purchased by a company out of Des Moines. And this would have been about 6-8 weeks ago, we had a discussion with them. I just happened to catch them there. We had a language barrier, but we were able to talk to somebody else on the phone. I advised them that they need building permits to pursue any further action at that property. And then I observed that they showed up 2 more times to clean up and clean it out, but then that's it. I've received no building permit and I've had no updates, so we're probably gonna have to move forward with something at some point, just to try to test those waters and see what's going on.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Tarr or Chief Morrison? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Moving on. Talk a little bit about the 4 and 6 First Street Northwest option. This is the old pharmacy building over here. I'll get Mr. Dunt here, kick it off here, and we've got some other representatives as well.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Derek from ISG is here in person, and then on Zoom, we have Brett Walker from ISG, and then Matt Stoffel from Public Financial Management. And the council in their packet, Derek, have this one-page summary of the two options with the cost estimates for the two options. And basically, option A is to structurally secure, yeah.
Where's that?
Doug.
Got mine, because I got mine. I left mine at home in the county. I was gonna bring, so.
In the meantime, while we're waiting for copies, I'll just give an update. Terracon is the company that's doing the asbestos and lead-based paint inspection. And they were on site Friday, they're on site today, and probably tomorrow. A little more to it than what they anticipated, but they hope to be completed tomorrow or the next day. So that's asbestos inspection and lead-based inspection. After that, they'll file a report after their testing is done and submit a report. And then from that point on, then we look towards getting proposals for asbestos and lead-based paint removal. So, and we have a state grant to help with both of those processes. So it'll be a reimbursement. When they bill us, we'll pay them, and then we get reimbursed through the grant program at the state. Derek, do you have anything you want to add at this point, or?
No, sounds like that's progressing as it should.
Okay. Do you have one of them summary pages?
I do.
Okay. The option A was basically to structurally secure number 4 and number 6, and the dollar amounts are on the left column.
Thanks.
And then the option B is to totally demolish both structures entirely, and then fill in the void in the ground, and then level it and seed it, I assume. So option B, to demolish, is some $615,000, and option A is less than that. That's to structurally secure. So I guess we wanted to open it up for council discussion, your thoughts on it. If you have any technical questions or anything like that, ISG is here to discuss, and so I'll just like to have some council discussion on it.
I guess I'd just like to know, first of all, what the temperature in the room is amongst us, not in any official voter capacity on what we think needs to be done. I think we can't afford to tear them down for a simple reason. We don't need 2 more Peace Plazas in town. We need secured buildings that can house some businesses. But that's just my feeling on it. I don't know where the rest of you stand on it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Mr. Palmer as well. You know, we're looking at $498,000 to restructurally fix it, $600,000 to shut it down. You know, it's kind of a wash, and I'd rather see if we can keep the building going, and then go from there. But I'm open to other. Mr. Blanford.
I know it was kind of run down there for a while, but when it was in good shape, what was kind of the assessed value on that? Was it?
I don't have the assessed value in front of me. I think it was minimal.
Yeah.
Because it was in tough condition.
So it was never had it, 15 years ago, where it was, when it was purchased, kind of go off of that, and because
Yeah.
if we do move forward with it, and I know we're not going to get that full amount, but if we actually fix it up and sell the building.
Yeah, so the intent so far is that option A would be, a contractor would go in and do structural repairs, but it wouldn't be remodeling, so it's still gonna need a lot of work for a private developer to go in and finish the work and doing cosmetic work and things like that to the remainder of the building. There are other grants. I know there's some state grants for upper level residential living in downtown buildings, and so they would qualify for grant assistance for that. But, yeah, as far as getting it in the hands of a private owner, there's still gonna be a lot of work to do.
And then how many apartments did they have up there when it was livable?
Doug, can you come up to the podium so that everybody can hear? On each side,
I was just curious.
number of
so
apartments,
People are
yeah.
listening and,
Basically, there was, it was hard to say, but 2 large ones, one on each side, or potentially 4 small ones,
Okay.
is the way it was set up.
I just remember back when I was younger, we had friends that lived up there, and I thought there was 4 apartments at that point in time. And maybe they
They're adjoined.
blew out
and-
both walls and,
Right. Well, the walls hadn't disappeared, but the hallways are very narrow to go into the next one.
Okay.
So, I think it could go either way depending on what somebody wanted to do with them.
so it could be a pretty good investment for somebody to put, to fix it up, to have, 2 to 4 apartments and maybe rent out the business downstairs.
Potentially.
Okay.
Mr. Davies has
Yeah, I
some
looked up the
information.
assessed value of the properties. Number 4 was 30, this is in 2024, 33,900, and 6 was 34,000.
Okay.
And that's on the Beacon, Franklin County website.
So right now, we're looking at option A is all the engineer estimate. It could be $100,000 higher.
we'll let Brett or Derek speak to that.
Yeah, so it is an estimate. We did add some contingencies and some general conditions, so the work itself, we've got proposed at 200, and then another 100,000 and change in the general conditions and the contingency. And as we've spoken with Ron in the past, that contingency's probably higher than what we would typically carry, but there's a lot about the building that we don't know. There's a lot of material left in there and things that we couldn't see. So, again, it's an estimate after a couple of walkthroughs, but we have built in some cushion to account for some unknowns. But it's not a bid from a contractor. We'll
So
have to wait to get that.
This is we'll have to have a loan for this, right? We don't have
Yeah.
that
Well,
kind of money laying around.
Well, we have funds, we have local option sales tax funds, we have franchise fee funds, but typically those are the funds that help us do, bigger street projects than we would normally do. So if it's a trade-off. If we steer those monies towards this project, then that's less street projects we'll be able to do for, a couple of years or 3 years or whatever. So it's a trade-off. I would recommend that we borrow the money for this so that we don't have to tap into the funds that we use for street projects.
Well, we can't even fix streetlights, traffic signal. A lot of streets are in disrepair. We need housing, we need jobs, and we're gonna spend 300 grand or 600 grand on this. We're in no man's land. We have negative growth.
I think, though, if you remember back when I spoke to the council about, there's no place for businesses to grow, we actually have nothing downtown when you're looking for a place to grow. I think, I agree with Pat, we don't need another empty lot downtown. We need those buildings for businesses, and, talking about the need for housing, we can have potentially 2 to 4 apartments above as well. I think it's well worth the investment to save the building and turn around and sell it and recoup some of our loss on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at it, we've got to do something with it. It's ours. So we got to do something. So there's $100,000 difference between fixing it up, making it structurally sound, and tearing it down and having another Peace Plaza. We got to do something. We can't, it's not going to go away, and it's in our lap. So, that's kind of the bad news, but we can.
I don't know what gentleman it was the other night that talked about redoing some buildings in Faribault or Owatonna or somewhere in Iowa. I would like to know if those were private people that owned them buildings or the city owned it, or how they financed that. Is there other grants available that were missing somehow? I don't know.
Yeah, so that was Sam Brockshus from our office. I don't know the details on the finances, but I can certainly grab that and I can send that over to you, Ron, and you could share that with the council. I'm not sure if I believe they were publicly owned, but I'll confirm that, get that over to you.
Ron, will we have to, no matter if we tore the building down or if we structurally made them sound, we would still have to pay for asbestos removal and that lead paint crap either way?
That's correct.
Yep.
That's why we're doing that.
Right. So,
Yes.
okay.
What kind of money are we talking about for that?
Oh, do you recall, Derek, what the Terracon estimate was? It was under 10,000, I think, for both total.
Yeah, as far as the assessment goes, and we won't know what the remediation cost will be until we get their report back. But yeah, they were maybe 8,000-9,000.
Yeah.
For the asbestos and lead-based paint.
Inspection.
Is there a grant for possibility
Yeah.
for that too?
Yeah, grants will be paying for that.
Yeah. So-
Yes.
So when we're talking about, shoring these up, so you remove the asbestos and the lead-based paint from like the walls inside the building, that won't include like re-drywalling everything, that's under a remodeling type of thing?
Right.
Okay.
That's correct. No, just beams, posts, concrete foundation work, and they'll tear out what they need to do. They'll do some, I don't know what you call that, types of demo,
Yes, we'll do some selective demo
Yeah.
to be able to stabilize the flooring, the building shell, but it won't be, it's not contemplating HVAC or electrical work, drywall, any of the cosmetics. It'll be to shore it up and make sure that it's a stabilized building.
How's that gonna affect the other buildings if you're not heating those two there?
I don't know what has that been I believe the spaces are, there's enough insulation between the walls that they're similar to their exterior wall on the other sides of the buildings.
So I think, like I said, we're gonna have to move on something on this. So I think, the general consensus is, well, what do you guys feel like? We save the building, or we?
I think if we save it, because if we do get somebody in there and, if it's 4 apartments, that's 4 people or families that could live up there, a business, we'd be able to get the people in town spending money. If they fixed up the place, we'd be able to get taxes from that, where if not, it's just gonna be a parking lot.
Yeah.
You could actually get 2 businesses
two.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think we definitely have to fix it
Yeah, we
up. I
gotta do
mean,
something with
why
that.
spend more money to tear it down and
Right.
end up with a gravel lot? You wouldn't even have a Peace Plaza. You'd
No.
have to do something else with that. No, it just makes sense to fix it up and have it become an asset, and hopefully, like I said, businesses could move in, people could move in and generate some revenue, especially tax revenue for us.
Barry? Thoughts?
I'm gonna go with the flow.
Okay. Mr. Hodge?
I'm for fixing them up, I think.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would kind of caution everybody, this ain't gonna, it's not something that's gonna be happening in next 2 or 3 years. I'm sure it's gonna be a long road, and it's gonna take a lot of thinking on our part, and getting it where we need to be. Because I think,
I would just add one thing too, is keep in mind that if we go down the road of option A to repair, getting it in the hands of the private sector, it's not, there was no way we're gonna recoup this money. either option, there's no way we're gonna recoup it. So it's basically an investment in our community, for our downtown to try to, maintain, economic vitality. And so it's just, it's a community project, but hopefully, whatever we do, there'll be a developer to step up and propose a project in there that will create some housing, create businesses and things like that, employ people and so.
It's too bad people walk away from things and they can't be held accountable.
Yes, I agree.
Agreed.
Agreed there. All right, so
So I guess, I would ask Matt. Matt, do you want to touch on, as we move forward, what some considerations will be for the council as far as financing?
Yeah, so, as Ron indicated earlier, you can hear me okay, Ron?
Yes.
As Ron indicated earlier, you can use cash on hand, but then you're really trading off your financial flexibility for other projects. Certainly, you can borrow for this under what's called the essential corporate purposes. And so for an essential corporate purpose, which are roads, water, sewer, new building falls under that corporate purpose language. You need to set and hold a public hearing. And then that is the process of which borrow.
Matt,
Yeah,
you're breaking up quite bad.
okay. I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yeah. I don't know if
Okay.
it's signal or what, but
Okay. So the first thing is, it sounds like you're going with option A. The next thing is to establish the authority to borrow. And so you have to set and hold a public hearing in order to borrow. And Allers will, as your bond counsel, would help you do that work. But you would probably do that depending on when you need the money and when you intend to pay the money back. If you plan to pay the money back, start to paying the money back in your fiscal 26 budget, you would need to set and hold public hearings and adopt a pre-levy resolution in the spring. So probably January, you set and hold the public hearings, and then early February, you adopt the pre-levy resolution. And what that does is it just gives the county a mechanism for when you submit your budget to them, that you have established the authority to borrow for this, even though you won't have borrowed for it ahead of your budget process. And so that, then we kind of lock in, well, okay, what do we think the interest rate is going to be? How much is the city going to borrow? How many years is it going to borrow for? And so depending on the impact that the city wants to have on the property taxes, we can kind of solve for, do we need to do a 5-year loan or a 10-year loan? And a lot of that comes down to, what interest rate can we attract? So this is a $500,000 project. Are there other projects in the CIP that the city's intending to borrow for? We are seeing a lot of cities in your situation where the state is starting to put a lot of pressure on the general fund to move things like police cars or fire trucks or ambulances or, a lot of things that you would normally pay for out of just general operating. As you have more limited ability to fund those things from the general fund, to borrow for them is another way you can essentially do that. It's the same impact on property taxes, but it's just from a different source or a different avenue. So, we would work with Ron, and, the council would provide, the direction on, are we just borrowing for this project, or is there anything else that you would consider borrowing for in the next year or two, that we would bundle these together with the intent of, banks are more attracted to bigger loans. So if this was just a $500,000 loan, you might attract, a few local banks. If it was $1 million loan, you would attract, maybe 6 or 7 different banks. And the whole goal is to drive the interest rate as low as possible. And so that's something that's not for this conversation, but as the council starts to think about the CIP and thinks about the changing the dynamics that the legislature is kind of pushing down. These are things that we think about because you only want to borrow once every, 3 or 4 years if you can. I mean, you got to borrow when you need the money, but you don't want to have to borrow regularly if you don't have to. So, I've ran some, high level scenarios just to kind of understand what would be the difference between like option A or scenario 1 and scenario 2, and so we can start to analyze, what's the overall tax rate that the city's trying to target, and then how can we fit this in within the overall tax rate strategy of the city. It's obviously going to have an increase to property taxes, but to what level, essentially, we can decide that as we determine the term of the loan, and once we have a better indication on interest rates. So I said a lot. Let me stop and see what kind of questions there are from a financing perspective.
Any questions for Mac?
I definitely think this will be a $500,000 project, if not more, but I don't see just borrowing to borrow and a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, just so we can create an accountability to the public of this is what we need and this is what we borrowed for.
Any other discussion, ideas?
And it's still open for questions, but I guess I just have one comment. As we move forward, what I see as a next step, and I'll let Derek and Matt weigh in on this, we need to have maybe some timelines put together of, from your perspective, Derek, what a potential timeline would be, and from Matt's perspective, what a potential timeline would be, and bring those to the council to give you an idea of what the timeline would be for the different steps.
I agree with that.
So, this is a question for the guys that are on the Zoom or whatever. From right now, when would you anticipate that we could have contractors working on that? How soon?
So we're looking at probably end of February. We could have contract documents ready to start the bidding process, and then 30 to 45 days to go through the bidding process and get a contractor in to start. Our preference would be that some cleanup takes place before so that we can tighten up our documents and be able to see more when we go in. So we could help with a quick competitive quote type of document if you needed one to get a couple of opportunities for folks to come in and clean up, however that would look. But we're probably end of February for getting documents done, assuming that we'd start in January and there'd be a few weeks to get cleanup done, and it pushes back from there if it's a slower start to get to that point. But we'll want to see the Terracon work get finished so we know what we have for asbestos and lead, so that that's included in the construction documents. So that's a complete set that would go out then in, say, March.
And this will take a large contractor. This is gonna take somebody like Larson Construction or
There's going to be some masonry work and some structural work, so.
thank you.
In that type of timeline, still you could have construction starting around the first of the fiscal year if a contractor is able to, and that's when we would have some money budgeted for that process. And
Yeah, I think we have the ability to structure the dates in the contract however we'd like. So if we wanted to structure the contract such that work was to commence after July 1st, that's certainly an opportunity.
yeah, I guess we'd have to work with Matt and know that we have funds on hand and ready to go to pay a contractor. So we're just gonna have to coordinate the two.
Yep. And I think we can work together to outline dates, schedule, here's what it could look like. And, we can talk on what the reality would be of getting that cleaned up, is how long that takes, so we can set our schedule from there.
Yeah, at the financing, you would have to establish the authority to borrow ahead of the budget. So there will, you'll have to probably decide, if you plan to include this in the 26 budget, you'll have to set and hold public hearings in January and adopt a pre-levy resolution in February so that you can just include this in the budget process. That will give you the ability to fund it for fiscal 26. And then when the city actually closes on the loan, starts paying interest on the loan, receives the money, that can all just be whenever the construction timeline is needed. So when you need to start paying contractors. So likely you'll have to do some, if you're going to borrow money, you're going to have to do these steps, pretty early in 2025. But then that doesn't mean you have to borrow and receive the money until July, August, whenever you need to. So.
Thank you.
All right. So, any steps, next steps other than asbestos and lead, is basically work with Matt
Yep.
on the financing and just keep things moving at some
Yeah.
point, so.
Yeah. And I am assuming ISG, you're going to want to put together a services agreement for the
Yep.
council to consider before you move forward with putting together plans and specs for the project.
Correct. So
Okay.
we'd prepare a proposal and include a schedule for consideration as well.
Okay.
Sounds good. Any other comments? Good, bad, ugly? All right. Well, appreciate your help, for being here today, Matt and Brett and Derek. And
Thank you.
sounds like we'll be seeing a lot of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Let's move on to something a little bit different. First time we got the airport hangar lease upgrade and amendments. Mr. Dunt.
Yeah, so Jay and I have been talking for the past couple of months about potentially raising the rent for the airport hangars. The typical T hangar rents for $65. There's another yellow hangar that's a slightly larger units in the northwest portion of where the buildings are that currently rents for $75 per hangar. Proposing to raise the T hangar rent to $80 and then the larger yellow hangar to $100 per month. I'm also proposing to restrict the tenants from not storing personal equipment items such as lawnmowers, snow blowers, vehicles, motorcycles, and other personal and household related items that are not directly related to the their aircraft operation or maintenance. Also proposed just to clean up some language under the termination clause. There was one termination clause that kind of was talking both about that you can terminate for a reason and then just terminate for no reason. So I separated those into number 10, terminate without clause, and then a termination for clause, and the explanations pretty much remained the same. Just kind of cleaned that up. On the last page, collecting the more accurate information on addresses, email addresses, and cell phone numbers for tenants. I think the dollar amounts is still very competitive. I did some research on what other communities charge, and we're still probably right in the middle. Some are higher, some are lower. There's many communities are talking about this right now, about raising hangar rents. Many communities are talking about looking at all revenue sources because of what the state legislature is doing. They continue to talk about focusing on property tax reform for cities and counties, and so cities are analyzing how they do business, and so this is one of them. The use of the hangar and storing personal items in there, that's new. That might not be real popular with tenants, but I just feel like it's something that we should include. I don't think it's a huge problem. Jay doesn't feel like it's a huge problem, but I know there's some of it that happens, but I think it's best to have the language in there just to avoid having future problems. In the past, we've had
Yeah, we've had
substantial problems and didn't have the language. And so this might help avoid having problems. So those are the major changes to this, and it's just up for council discussion.
I have a couple of questions. Are the hangars all rented now? And is there a waiting list if they're all rented?
Jay, do you want to answer that? If you could come up.
Short answer, yes, they're all rented. We have 22 T hangars at the airport. They are all currently leased. I do not have a waiting list. Waiting lists come and go very fast. If somebody's looking for an airplane, usually they find one somewhere else. So at the moment, I do not have.
No, that's what I figured, but they are full. That's good.
Yes, yes.
That's good.
That's never a problem.
How often do you inspect those?
And I was thinking about this just a little bit ago. I believe, is there language in the lease about entering? I think we have to
Yeah.
give 24-hour notice,
48 hours.
48 hours?
Yep.
Yeah, to remember, I'm also running an aviation repair business. So some of the tenants are also my aviation customers. So for example, if you have an airplane and you say, Jay, I need an annual on my airplane, I'm gonna be in your hangar 3, 4, 5 times a year because of the relation of getting your airplane in and out. Whereas Ron might take his airplane to another airport. So I'm in the hangars twice a year minimum, mouse bait, door maintenance, light bulbs, stuff like that. I've never given the notice. It's never been an issue with anybody to actually send out notice that I'm going to go in the hangars. So
Do they have any heat in them?
no, there's no heat in any hangars. We do provide, and I'm not sure if other airports are the same. I would imagine we do provide electricity. So in the wintertime, if you want to plug your airplane in for cold weather, the electric is on the city dime to do that.
Does the money from the rent, does that go into an airport fund or?
General fund.
So what's the condition of the roofs and stuff? They're pretty good?
Well, we have 10 T hangars to the south that were the original ones from the airport. That building's in I'm going to say, good to excellent shape. We redid the roof 5, 6 years ago. I think, put a new roof on. We have 8 new T hangars that were built in 2010.
Yeah, probably. Time flies.
Something like that. And in fact, that was the last time that we raised the rent, I believe, was when those new hangars came online. And then the 4 hangars to the northwest. The building itself is in good shape. The 4 hangars to the northwest, the 10 to the south. The south hangar, we're going to need to do some probably door replacements sometime in the near future, or start on that. Those buildings were made with aluminum frame doors, and the high winds in our area tend to stress the aluminum, and openers are always an issue. I've spent a lot of time fixing openers. We get by, and for the most part, they work fine, but
Thank you.
I did kind of through my head, we have, like I said, we have 22 T hangars going in just with the ones that I know that I've been in, we have probably, I know 5 for sure, maybe 6 hangars that have what Ron would describe as personal property in anything from a lawnmower or motorcycle, we don't have any boats, campers.
Flying beds.
Yeah,
We had a problem with flying beds one time.
yeah, so, yeah, I understand.
If someone takes their plane out and they have a car there, what's wrong with them parking their car in there while they're gone?
That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, and that has been tolerated, just, I guess we've never really discussed whether that should happen or not. It's just, you're gonna be gone for 4 or 5 days, you don't wanna leave your car sit in a public parking lot, unprotected. It's just as easy to put it in the hangar, shut the door, it's out of the wind and rain and snow, and ready to go. So, it's never become an issue from either side, I guess, so.
All right, any other thoughts? Everybody's pretty much good with the changes and the updates.
Jay's good with it.
Yeah, that's what I think, as long as Jay and everybody agrees with it, I think we're okay, and.
Yeah,
And-
there will be complainers,
Sure. Sure.
that's given. We will need to be patient with the transition time for that, to
Sure.
get out of that, and then I would imagine probably the hardest aspect will be, if you have a hangar and I'm not taking your airplane in and out for maintenance, you can move something in the middle of the night or sometime when I'm not there, and I don't know about it until I'm in the hangar for the 2 times a year,
That's unavoidable.
So, and usually, if someone has gotten by with it for a month, in their estimation, that's good to get by with it forever. You know how that goes. So,
Ron, when was the last time we had a rent increase on those hangars?
I think he said it was like,
What was it?
When the
Yeah.
new hangars were put
I
up.
came in October of 2008, the yellow hangars, those 4 bigger ones, which were built like for twin-engine airplanes, they've been $75 the whole time that I've been here. Originally, we were at $50 for the smaller T hangars, and then we went to 65 whenever it was that we built the 8 new hangars, which I think was 2009 or 2010.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Have any of our expenses gone up over that period of time?
Oh,
I'm
not
guessing.
necessarily. I mean, the hangars are pretty low maintenance, other than small item stuff like, replacement cables for the door openers, a few switches and stuff here and there, light bulbs. That's kind of nickel and dime stuff. We haven't had to spend any large amount of money on hangar repairs, other than we did with the roof
Yeah.
a number of years ago, so.
And then, about your services, I mean, we contract with you for your services. The only other fairly large expenditure would be any FAA grant we do for projects, and which the next one that we're doing is the runway crack sealing, which will be done in the spring. So we have a local match for that, and so that's an expenditure that we
Is it like a
incur.
90-10, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
And no other discussion on that, we'll put that on, and get that updated on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jay.
Jay.
thank you.
All right. At this point, we're going to need to go into our closed session. So we're going to ask everybody to go home early. And we hope to see you at another council meeting soon.
So, Mayor, I would just
Yeah, go ahead.
request that we have a motion and a second, and then we'll do a roll call vote to go into closed session under Iowa Code 21.51I, as requested by the employee Doug Tarr, because it does take the employee's request.
All right? Well, we'll go ahead and look for a motion to go into West.
I'll second. Or-
Palmer,
Thank you, Bub.
Mr. Hodge, to move into closed session. Roll call post will be Mr. Hodge,
Aye.
Ms. Griefy,
Aye.
Mr. Palmer,
Aye.
Mr. Lamos,
Aye.
Mr. Blanford,
Aye.
Mr. Davies. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just take a little recess for
Yeah.
a second. Anybody has to go to the restroom?
Not me yet.